Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents An Unfinished Canvas, a true story of love, family, and murder in Nashville, by Michael Glasgow and Phyllis Gobble, narrated by Chris Abernathy. Prologue. A flock of white pelicans sail in a perfectly straight line across the blue sky. Leather-faced fishermen in wooden boats cast their nets into the still, translucent waters of the lake. The chimes atop an ancient chapel peal with the music of a new morning in Ajijic, Mexico. Perry March leaves his spacious home just before 8 on the bright morning of August 3, 2005, walking to the cafe that he and his Mexican wife, Carmen, own. The perpetual sunshine angles its rays through the colorful windows of the shops and markets as he strolls along the cobblestone streets. At the Media Luna Bistro and Cafe, a buttery yellow stucco building in the heart of the vibrant little town, Carmen is already putting out delectable baked treats for the day's customers. The smell of strong Mexican coffee mixes with the scent of fresh mangoes, papayas, pineapples, and guavas. Another day in paradise. Ajijic, a retirement haven for more than 5,000 American and Canadian expatriates, is located on Lake Chapala, Mexico's largest natural lake. Surrounding the lake are villages and small towns that date back to 12th century pre-Hispanic settlements by a migrating tribe of the Nahuatl Indians. The Ajijic convent was constructed in 1531, and after 350 years of an amalgamation of Indian and Hispanic cultures, Ajijic began to experience an influx of citizens from many other countries. Tourists discovered the picturesque natural beauty of the Lake Chapala region and the ideal climate known as eternal spring. In 1895, the first major hotel, the Arzapalo, opened to accommodate the growing stream of visitors. The Palacio Municipal, town hall, was constructed in 1913, and by 1930, the first railroad station was opened. Guadalajara's high society began to take the train to the Chapala lakeside for leisurely weekends and the Christmas holidays. In 1999, the Chapala lakeside was a logical destination for Perry and his children, Sammy and Zippy. His 72-year-old father, Arthur March, had come to Ajijic in the mid-1990s. Perry knew he could count on his father to help him start over. In this land of eternal spring, Perry believed he could finally escape all his problems. The Lake Chapala region was everything Arthur had promised. Wealthy tourists of many nationalities flocked to the bed and breakfasts and excellent hotels. Guides conducted tours high into the Sierra Madre's El Tigre Mountains. Restaurants flourished, offering exquisite cuisine from varied cultures. The local yacht club held regattas on Lake Chapala. There were shops and open-air markets filled with busy shoppers and mariachi music. There were banks and pharmacies and dentists and doctors. Perry smelled opportunity. He joined forces with a Mexican entrepreneur and formed a diversified list of business enterprises. He married a beautiful Mexican woman with 3 children, and soon they added a baby girl to their blended family. Life was good. On this sun-splashed August morning, Perry March strolls past walled houses and colorful shops, decorated with fragrant bright flowers that drape to the ground from earthenware pots. He is inside of the Media Luna Bistro and Cafe when 4 unmarked cars approach at a high speed and screech to a halt, pinning him in on the sidewalk. "Hey, what the hell?" Perry demands, as several men jump from their vehicles and grab him. He struggles. "Where are you taking me?" One of the Mexican immigration authorities tells him with a sneer, "Your visa has been revoked, Senor March. You are going to the United States." Perry protests. "My wife is inside the cafe. Let me tell her. Let me at least call my father." But already rough hands are hustling him toward one of the unmarked cars. The cars speed away as an official convoy down the narrow cobblestone streets of Ajijic. Perry March has just been arrested Mexican style. Hour by hour, the day that began in paradise distorts into something surreal, a Dali painting. He remembers that some of Janet's paintings were surreal. She was a promising artist before that night 9 years ago, a bad dream that Perry has put behind him here in Mexico. Now he is floundering in another bad dream. The Mexican agents won't even let him make a call. By 9 a.m., he is in FBI custody in the air above Guadalajara, a short plane ride that changes everything. Perry March is used to being the one in control, always sure he is the smartest person in the room. Today, he is powerless. He is formally deported based upon a federal criminal complaint charging him with fleeing the United States to avoid prosecution. Once in Los Angeles, he learns he has been indicted and charged by the Criminal Court of Davidson County, Tennessee, with 3 felony charges: second-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence in the 1996 disappearance of his former wife, Janet March. In the Los Angeles suburb, night comes to the Van Nuys Community Police Station. Perry sits on a hard bed on a scratchy, musty blanket inside his cell. It is not lost on him that he's in the cell once occupied by O.J. Simpson. The incredible events of the day begin to sink in. His arrogance falls away like discarded clothing. It is incomprehensible to Perry that his world is collapsing so suddenly, all in one nightmare of a day, since that moment, just this morning, when he strolled along the street of Ajijic, the sun warm on his shoulders. In John Milton's Paradise Lost, Michael the Archangel is sent to expel Adam and Eve from paradise. Perry March is living his own epic poem of good and evil. He wonders if he will ever again warm himself in the bright Mexican sun. Part 1. Chapter 1. A Perfect Life. The lights mesmerize Perry March as he drives home from downtown Nashville along West End Avenue. Taillights from the cars in front of him form 2 lines of streaming red beacons, like a private runway to guide him home through the early evening dusk. It is only a 15-minute drive from the family law firm, Levine, Matson, Orr, and Gerachotti, to his massive new home at No. 3 Blackberry Road in the affluent Forest Hills neighborhood in this southern city, a city on the rise. The air is crisp on this fall night in 1995. Maple and oak leaves of varying hues of red and gold litter Perry's roadway paths like confetti from a heavenly parade as he turns from West End into the private enclave of exclusive Belle Meade. He follows its divided boulevard lined with huge mansions, a display of tasteful old Nashville money and ostentatious new Nashville money, side by side. As the end of the 20th century looms, Nashville is doing its best to forge its own unique urban mark upon the southern landscape, to step from behind the broad shadow of the Southeast's premier city, Atlanta. Known for decades as Music City, USA, Nashville has determined forces at work constructing the multi-layered dimensions of a more urban sophistication, a citywide goal to outrun the hayseed image burned into the collective national memory by television shows such as Hee Haw. Of course, the blue bloods of Nashville have never fully embraced or understood the music industry, which is a combination of 2 primary groups. There are the artists and performers, with their tour buses and cowboy hats, and there are the record producers and music executives, with their designer jeans and Porsches. Although it employs thousands and generates billions of dollars annually, the music industry has always remained a subculture within Nashville, never the power behind the urban throne. Many of the Nashville streets bear the names of Confederate generals whose blood stained the soils of its Middle Tennessee hills during what is still referred to as the War, and historical markers appear on street corners throughout the city like postcards from the past. But broad changes in the makeup of the city's population and the city's leaders are readily evident. The most obvious is the city's mayor, Phil Bredesen, elected in 1991. Unlike his predecessors, Bredesen is not from an old Nashville family. In fact, he is not just from above the Mason-Dixon line, but from New York, of all places, and with a wife, Andrea, who insists she maintain her maiden name, Conti. Bredesen, a Harvard-educated entrepreneur, is a poster child for the dramatic changes stampeding through this once quaint and provincial city, which for decades was controlled primarily by families who had made their fortunes in companies selling life insurance door to door, companies like National Life and accident insurance company. Nashville is also a city once known as the Athens of the South, after the city fathers in 1876 elected to project a new image of art and culture by building an exact replica of the Greek temple. The Parthenon was Nashville's contribution to the landscape of the South during the country's centennial celebration. The audacity of a New Yorker asking the voters of a conservative southern city in the heart of the Bible Belt to elect him as their city leader comes from his connections with the new power brokers of Nashville. This crucial connection comes from his wealth, and his wealth comes from the new currency in Nashville: health care. In the 1980s, Bredesen was one of an elite number of businessmen who amassed staggering sums of money in very short periods of time through health management organizations. It was the beginning of fundamental changes in America's healthcare system, the introduction to both patients and doctors throughout the nation of health management organizations, HMOs, and preferred provider organizations, PPOs. The radical shift in the nation's healthcare system found Nashville and companies like Bredesen's Health America at the heart of it all. Nashville has had its share of visionaries, but unlike Bredesen, they had remained in the private sector. One of the first was Joel Cheek, a coffee merchant who experimented with blended coffees, creating a blend known as Maxwell House, named for a famous hotel in Nashville. In 1928, when General Foods came calling, Joel Cheek sold the Cheek Neal Coffee Company and his blended coffee that was good to the last drop for $42 million. The enormity of the business transaction for its time, and the legal fees it generated for the Cheek family's attorney, Cecil Sims, catapulted his firm into the top echelons of law firms in the South and placed its steady growth on solid footing throughout the next 7 decades. Bass, Berry & Sims was always on the lookout for the brightest legal minds that it could lure from top law schools, minds like that of Vanderbilt-trained Perry March, who received his law degree in 1988. Then there was also Jack C. Massey, who in 1964, after retiring from a highly successful surgical supply business that he took public on the New York Stock Exchange, handing out bedpans on Wall Street the day the stock became listed, purchased Kentucky Fried Chicken from the white-haired and white-suited Colonel Sanders for a cool $2 million. Then, along with his partner, former Kentucky Governor John Y. Brown, Massey expanded it into the first international food chain to rival the dominance of McDonald's. Massey would become known as the father of the fast food franchise in America. And then there was Dr. Thomas Frist, founder of Hospital Corporation of America in 1968. Through HCA, which was controlled by the Frist family, Dr. Frist and his oldest son, Dr. Tommy Frist, Jr., began purchasing government-owned and operated hospitals, first in the South and then throughout the country. To finance this aggressive capital acquisition, the Frists followed the lead of Jack Massey and headed to New York to let the private bankers of Wall Street lure the money from the pockets of American stock purchasers across the nation. By 1981, HCA owned 349 hospitals and had annual revenues of over $2 billion. The Frists and HCA had conceptualized a path to secure a stream of cash flow that would literally never dry up: the United States Treasury. With an ever-aging national population of baby boomers, the billions of dollars in annual Medicare reimbursements that used to keep the locally owned government-run hospitals afloat were now flowing into the coffers of the privately owned hospitals. HCA had brilliantly engineered one of the largest transfers of public monies into private hands in the history of the country, a transfer of wealth that would lead to Nashville's first billionaires. This seismic shift of power and wealth from public to private hands is actually coming full circle in Nashville in 1995. The younger Frist brother, William Frist, was just elected as United States Senator from Tennessee in the fall of 1994, the first step in what will become a powerful national political career, with his rise to the position of Senate Majority Leader and potential presidential candidate. Bill Frist followed his father and older brother into the medical profession and is a Nashville cardiac surgeon. Even though it was rumored during his first campaign that he never even voted until the age of 36, he was encouraged by the Republican power brokers in Washington, primarily former Tennessee Senator Howard Baker, to enter politics. Frist was victorious, unseating political veteran and seemingly untouchable Tennessee Democrat Senator Bill Sasser. The merger of private and public power is complete. One brother, Tommy Frist, is head of the country's largest provider of health care services, and the other brother, Bill Frist, is a leader of the public bureaucracy from which HCA received their billions in medical reimbursements. Nashville is truly no longer a provincial southern city. With windshield wipers knocking off the occasional stray cascading leaf, Perry exits the interior city of Belmead and enters the contiguous boundary of his private city domain, Forest Hills. Nashville, like many southern cities, contains numerous geographically defined interior entities, many cities with their own elections and their own mayors or city managers, defined geographical boundaries that are firmly controlled by the residents within those boundaries. If one can attain the wealth to afford a home within one of these elite designated boundaries, it is unmistakably projected by the established powers within that all newcomers have to play by the local rules. Perry March, like Phil Bredesen, is an outsider who has come to Nashville and worked his way into the social and business fabric of this evolving southern city. Perry's move to Nashville began in Michigan, where he met his fellow student and future wife, Janet Gale Levine, while attending the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Somehow, amongst the tens of thousands of university students crisscrossing the enormous campus that is U of M, these two attractive people and bright minds connected and forged first a friendship and then a romance. Perry was a person of small stature, only 5'7", and weighing under 150 pounds, with curly brown hair and large, expressive eyes, staring out at the world with the look that could be viewed as eager anticipation or bewilderment. He was an outgoing and competent individual who knew he was brighter than most of his fellow students. Perry graduated in 1985 with a degree in Asian studies, becoming fluent in several Asian dialects. He was not an academic loner, but an involved collegian, serving as a member of the University of Michigan Honor Student Council. Janet Levine was the daughter of Lawrence and Carolyn Levine, established Nashvillians, prominent in both the social and business circles within Nashville, but especially influential and generous with their wealth within Nashville's Jewish community. Janet was an exceptionally beautiful young woman with thick, dark hair, high cheekbones, and full, sensuous lips. At 5'4" and weighing barely over 100 pounds, Janet was a gifted and talented artist who gave off a glowing radiance, a compelling energy, like a Rita Moreno for the 1990s, beckoning her partner to join her in a rooftop West Side Story dance number. Janet studied political science at U of M, as well as art and illustration. Some would say she had it all: beauty, brains, and talent. Janet had deep, soulful brown eyes that the artist in her used to take in the world and interpret it. Shakespeare said in his play Julius Caesar, "For the eye sees not itself, but by reflection." The question remains to this day, and Janet will never give an answer. Did she paint what she saw, or the reverse of what she saw? Not what life is, but what she wanted life to be. Lawrence Levine, who most everyone refers to as Larry, is the senior partner in the law firm of Levine, Matson, Orr, and Jerichoti, an established firm with comfortable but non-pretentious offices on 3rd Avenue in downtown Nashville, just blocks away from the courthouse in the heart of the legal trenches, proximate, ready for battle. A thin and angular man, Larry combs his few remaining gray hairs across a balding scalp. With a constant look of seriousness across his face, he peers from behind a pair of shaded, oversized glasses, relics from the 1970s, his gaze intent and hard to read. He is known throughout the Nashville legal and business community for his tenacity in the representation of his clients. If Larry Levine is on the other side of a case, his opponent rarely can catch his breath before the next onslaught of legal pleadings are filed. When Larry Levine is suing, it is an all-out war. Yet when it comes to family, there is an unconditional love, a generosity that Perry experienced firsthand when he followed Janet to Nashville and enrolled in the highly respected Vanderbilt University School of Law in 1985. Vanderbilt University is a member of what is referred to as the Ivy League of the South, with an excellent academic reputation, an institution that has produced nationally recognized scholars such as broadcast journalist David Brinkley, U.S. Supreme Court Justice James Clark McReynolds, and Pulitzer Prize winner Robert Penn Warren, author of All the King's Men, leader of both the Fugitive Riders and the Southern Agrarians. Other distinguished alumni come from varying fields. John Wesley Snyder served as Secretary of the Treasury under President Harry Truman, and James Eastland was a member of the United States Senate from 1942 to 1971. Perry Wallace, the first African-American athlete in the Southeastern Conference, played Vandy basketball from 1967 to 1970. Musical artists Dinah Shore and Amy Grant were Vandy graduates before the spotlight found them. And Muhammad Yunus, who earned his Ph.D. in economics from Vanderbilt in 1971, was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his work combating world poverty. The university was originally funded in 1873 through a gift of $1 million from the amassed wealth of another Nashville outsider, another New Yorker, Cornelius Vanderbilt. As the 21st century approaches, Vanderbilt has grown into a campus of over 300 acres in the heart of the city, an institution of over 10,000 students in 10 colleges, with a private endowment nearing $2 billion. The tuition for Vanderbilt Law School was far beyond Perry's means, so Larry Levine stepped up and shouldered the entire economic costs. Perry was up to the intellectual challenge of law school and its Socratic method of teaching, and performed well. He became associate editor of the prestigious Law Review and won nationally recognized academic medals through his performance in certain courses. He was a person with a fixed goal of transcending his middle-class background. During this time of growth and learning, Janet and Perry sealed their love and marriage in 1987. The following year, Perry graduated with honors from Vanderbilt School of Law and was immediately hired by the most prestigious and most blue blood of all the law firms in the city, Bass, Berry, and Sims. In fact, he became only the second Jewish attorney hired by Nashville's most waspy firm. The hiring committee was clearly impressed with Perry, his confidence, and his intellect. Perry March, an outsider, a transplant, with his very first job, entered the Nashville legal community at the very top. Perry turns the Jeep Cherokee into the driveway at No. 3 Blackberry Road, winding toward the house that his talented and artistic wife meticulously designed. The windows ablaze with light peer from the woods, a welcoming sight on this dreary evening. After Perry graduated from law school and was working as an associate with the city's top law firm, Janet began to devote more of her time to her art. She had periodic showings, and her illustrations and paintings began appearing in homes and businesses across the city. Some of her artwork appeared as illustrations in children's books. She even designed and patented an infant car seat. The architectural masterpiece that is the March home was the culmination of all her artistic talent, imagination, and energies. It is a beautifully designed creation worthy of the pages of Architectural Digest, with an exterior of natural stone, complemented and accented by an open interior with the tasteful use of natural woods on floors and staircases and as moldings, all nestled in a private valley paradise of several acres, completely out of view from the rest of the world. It is a home where its occupants can live a life in which neighbors will not intrude, a private world, with their dependable housekeeper, Deneen Beard, and their devoted Russian nanny, Ella Goldschmidt, where the actions of the March family are kept out of the reach or knowledge of others. The absolute seclusion is a feature of their daughter's dream home that will come to haunt the Levines forever. For Perry, so much has changed in his life, a life that was touched by tragedy when he was only 9. In 1970, Perry's mother, Zipporah, 32 years old, was found dead at their home in the industrial town of East Chicago. Questions surrounding the death have remained unanswered. Was it an accidental overdose of barbiturates by an overly stressed wife and mother of 3 who needed a temporary reprieve from the mounting pressures of life? Or was it a willful and deliberate suicide in search of a permanent escape from her collective demons? Ironically, several of the March family friends have commented to Perry and others that Janet is the spitting image of his mother when she was young. But now Perry has his own family, first with the birth of their son, Samson, in 1990, followed by the birth of their daughter 4 years later. It is as if Perry's mother has returned from the dead and is living again through the eyes and heart of a beautiful granddaughter, a granddaughter she would never hold, but who is forever connected to her paternal grandmother when Zipporah is named for Perry's mother. And he is also an integral part of the expanded Levine family, having left the lofty corridors of Bass, Berry & Sims to join his father-in-law's firm, Levine, Manton, Orr, and Gerachotti, in 1991. Perry told friends and associates that he simply wanted to be part of the family firm. He is now in his 4th year there, and his client list is robust, and the demands of his private law practice growing. He likes to refer to himself as a go-to guy in the wealthy and business-savvy Nashville Jewish community. Perry March is a rising star in a southern city that is rising as well. He has a beautiful and talented wife who spends her days creating art within her own private studio at home, or visiting with her mother, or enjoying the conversation and laughter of her close friends, or playing with and caring for their 2 adorable children, to whom everyone agrees both Perry and Janet are truly devoted. And they live these perfect lives in a private paradise, away from the intrusion and worries of the outside world. Life is good, really good, or so it would seem, as Perry's Jeep Cherokee pulls up to the magnificent dream house at No. 3 Blackberry Road on this fall evening in 1995. No one knows that Janet and Perry March are keeping up an elaborate facade. Chapter 2. Cracks in the Facade. Back from lunch, Perry enters the offices of Levine, Manton, Orr, and Gerachotti and picks up his messages at the receptionist's desk. An inch-thick stack, all since 10 this morning when he left for depositions. A fusion of sounds filters from the row of offices on each side of the carpeted pathway as he makes his way down the hall. Muffled telephone conversations, a burst of laughter from one of the secretaries, a metal file drawer being shut. In his private office, Perry peels back one pink slip of paper after another. His desk is littered with documents, corners peeking out from other papers, all needing him, all demanding something of him, like young children each competing for attention from a busy parent. No less than half a dozen of the phone calls need to be returned promptly. He doesn't make it to his desk chair. His mind is somewhere else. The office walls are closing in on him, suffocating him. He's got to get out of here, go somewhere, anywhere. He drops the slips of paper on top of the 2 stacks from yesterday, next to the telephone on his credenza, grabs one of his several leather briefcases for proper effect, and makes a quick retreat down the hall. "Perry!" comes the unexpected greeting just as he reaches the heavy front door of the office suite. He turns around. Larry Levine is standing in the hall, slipping into his gray suit jacket. "Have you had lunch?" "Just got back from Satsumas," says Perry. "Is it crowded?" "Just the usual, but good food, as always." "Off to a meeting?" Mr. Levine asks. "Yes. I just love clients who seem to always screw up," Perry jokes. He knows his father-in-law will equate screw-ups with tangled business affairs, and the more untangling required by him, the more fees for the firm. It is all fabrication, but Perry is rarely guileless. He prefers operating in a world of artful deception. Before Larry Levine can inquire further about the particular client, Perry dashes out the front door. The receptionist glances down at the appointment calendar. Under Perry's name, the space is blank for the rest of the afternoon. She starts to say something about it to Mr. Levine, but her longtime employer gives a pleasant smile and says he's going out for a sandwich. "I won't be long," he says. She swallows her comment. "Have a nice lunch, Mr. Levine," she says. A typical summer day in Nashville is distinguished by 90-degree temperatures, high humidity, and not a whisper of a breeze. Today, Nashville gets a reprieve from the heat. It's a balmy, breezy day, more like April than early August. Standing on the corner waiting for the light to change, Perry decides to get his car and drive somewhere, get out of downtown where he can breathe. The office buildings that line both sides of 3rd Avenue act like a mini wind tunnel. As Perry walks briskly toward the parking garage, he comes upon a striking woman in a bright canary yellow dress that accents her silky dark hair. Her ample breasts sit firmly above a tiny waist. She is doing her best to keep the gusts from hiking her dress up in all directions, like that famous Marilyn Monroe photograph where she's standing above a metal exhaust grate in New York City. As she continues to lose the battle to the unseasonable winds, Perry comes to a complete stop to enjoy the private show, pivoting like a...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?